It was then when we started to notice it, Hannah clarified. No, it was then when we placed the beginning of the odd things. If we could notice it then, maybe things would be different now. One of the women said. Yes, what Victoria says. Raquel said, half ignoring them. Some of us worked at the factory. Vigo, for example, attended the change of energy supply meetings. It didn't have to be anything important. There wasn't any big change at the factory. That was what they all said. I was, so to speak, a newcomer. But it mustn't be important. The energy supply, as far as electricity price was increasing. It worked with diesel before. They decided to change to electricity as an immediate step to the wind power. The facilities were very similar, and the electric let exploit parts of the diesel facilities. In other words, it divided the cost of the renewal into stages. First, the adaptation to electricity and then to the wind energy. It gave the company a few years to recoup the cost, a man said. Narciso works at the Infrastructure and Facility Department, Raúl explained. It seemed a logical solution to all of us. It saved cost, reduced pollution, and limited the dependence on the fossil combustible. And, above all, it prevented savings in other departments. Dismissals, Vigo said. They were threatening for months, and although they never put it clearly over the table, we were worried. This is a little town. At the very least, we had to immigrate. The nearest industrial nucleus is 70 kilometers far from here. It may be not much nowadays, but then communications weren't as good as today and not owed to the blockade. We live in a valley surrounded by mountains, and the factory was the best that had happened to us. Well, I suppose you just know this, Raúl said, looking at me. I didn't know much about the factory. It was a sinister building that looked more like a prison because of the wire spike fence than a factory. Nobody I knew could tell what they made there. Nobody I knew worked there. Actually, until the moment they mentioned it, I didn't consider it as an important piece of anything. What do you make at the factory? I asked. What do you mean with, what do you make at the factory? Hannah asked. What do you live on, then? I shrugged my shoulders. We lived on what they pay us. On second thoughts, it was weird. We could live on working in staff discount stores and restaurants, and where did all those things come from? How can we live without incomes from abroad? Or they only needed two phrases to undermine my being. I realized that I didn't know anything, that I didn't care about anything. I was centered on finding a good excuse to avoid Yellow Watch controls and following the organization's security protocols. I was as ignorant as the rest of the city population. I wasn't better. I was a completely ignorant fool. There are several divisions. The most important is the equipment goods one, machinery destined to other assembly lines, Raúl said. They spot all of them. Vigo clarified with sarcasm. There is no one able to set another factory here to sell the machinery to them. And there is also other secondary division of consumer goods. Raúl kept on talking. Food packaging, chemical cleaning and cosmetic products, fabrics. This was more a loss of mind of some executive than a business decision. The so-called Narciso took part. It meant a huge cost to adapt the equipment, meet all the legal requirements, the training of the technicians. I placed there the beginning of the factory economic troubles. It didn't make sense. Whatever it was, we liked it. In that moment, it meant more jobs and we liked it. It's our fault, as theirs, Raoul thought. So we were fine, with the daily problems every factory has, with the problems every city has, the usual. At the meetings, to tell us how they were going to make the change, took part all the organizations and authorities. The government, the company, of course, all of them. Vigo said, and nobody seemed to have evil intentions. The government gave the company the subsidy and... Which government was it? I asked.